Synagogue, home of the Miami Beach Israel Revival. It's so wonderful to have you with us on this YATI Shabbat Video Club. It's an honor to minister the eternal word of Yahweh to you, your family, your mishpacha, and all your friends. We welcome you to join us right here in the center of World Two House Messianic Yisrael Revival as you pull up a chair and get ready for today's message in the word of Yahweh. Again, we want to thank each of you from the bottom of our hearts for signing up, joining, and being a part of the worldwide outreach of the Miami Beach Israel Revival. Let's go into today's message as we sit back with our hearts open, our ears leaning forward, as Yahweh Eloheinu feeds us with the goodness and heritage of our father, Yaakov. Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Okay, hallelujah. Turn with me, please, to 1 Corinthians 9. 1 Corinthians 9. And I pray you enjoy this message. And I pray I enjoy giving it. 1 Corinthians 9, 26. Again, preaching for a few hours. A message entitled Speedway Guidance. Speedway Guidance. How many know? And you already do know, because I already told you, tomorrow is the running of the Indianapolis 500. Hallelujah. And I'm not, a sports fanatic where my whole life revolves around sports. Yahweh has kind of delivered me from that, okay? But there's something about this race. If you just sit down tomorrow at 11 o'clock on Channel 10, ABC, you'll enjoy it, okay? There's a lot of history. Everything is historically intertwined. And by the way, it's not just an American race, it's an international race. The Indianapolis 500 is an international event. From what I understand, this year there are 19 Americans, 6 Brazilians. We have any Brazilians? Brasileiro? All right, 6 Brazilians. Have you ever heard of Helio Castronevas? Yeah? Huh? The winner of the last 2 races in 02 and 01. Helio Castronevas comes from Brazil. Tony Kanaan, who sits on the front row, also comes from Brazil. And there are Japanese. Oh, it's an international event. And it's very, very breathtaking. So I'd encourage you to watch it tomorrow if you have a few moments, from 11 to 2 on ABC, Channel 10. But in getting myself prepared for the Indianapolis 500, I admit I get prepared. I watch old tapes and read old articles, and even today I've got ESPN on tape. I'm an Indy 500. I might as well just come out and say it. I'm an Indianapolis 500 fanatic, and I didn't miss a race for 7 years. My first race at Indianapolis was 1980. Johnny Rutherford won the last of his 3 Indy wins. I know I'm talking to some folks on a videotape. That's cool. And that was my first race, and I believe my last one was with Rivka. Rivka's only race at Indianapolis, 1989, when Emerson Fittipaldi and Little Al Alonso Jr. crashed on the last turn, turn 3 of the last lap, and Emerson Fittipaldi, also from Brazil, went on to win his first of 2 Indianapolis 500 victories. But so as I'm getting prepared mentally and all these things, I started seeing the connections, many cases, the connections between our lives as believers and this spectacular event. So many, to be honest with you, if we went over all the similarities between the Indianapolis 500 in our lives, and this is just 2 pages. I mean, we could literally have 10 pages. Are you with me? Yes?
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, we can literally have pages and pages of analogies and similarities and connections, how the running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race at the historic Speedway, the Brickyard, known as the Brickyard because it was paved with 3,200,000 bricks in 1911. How many have ever driven a Chevrolet? That's because Gaston and Louis Chevrolet first perfected their cars at Indianapolis. I'm going to get into all that. So what I've entitled this afternoon's message, Speedway Guidance. Speedway Guidance. Look, if you would, in 1 Corinthians. I'm going to use this event, this fabulous event, in terms of human terms, and try to bring it into the spiritual realm. Turn to your neighbor and say, spiritual realm. Verse 26. Therefore I run accordingly, not with uncertainty, thus I fight, not as one who beats the air. The Indianapolis 500 is raced on a 2.5-mile oval, and what makes it so fantastic, I just love the way I'm thrilling all the race fans here. What makes it so fantastic is that it is the same track built in 1911, where the first winner, Ray Haroon, went without a riding mechanic, went an average speed of 75 miles an hour on that 2.5-mile oval. 75 miles an hour. And they thought, oh my goodness, he's going to, 75 miles an hour. And the racing surface has never changed. The track has never changed. And the oval is designed, unlike European racing. European racing is more Formula One, Grand Prix, Formula One, up, down, left, right. They interviewed the 1953-1954 back-to-back winner of the Indy 500, Bill Vukovich Sr., who died chasing his 3rd straight Indy 500 title in 1955. If you're not sleeping yet, you will be soon. Just kidding. So they once asked him, and they said, well, Bill Vukovich, you're a Superman. You've won the Indy 500 2 years in a row. No man ever has won 3 years in a row. That's why tomorrow could be historical, as Helio Castroneves tries to be the first man to win 3 times in a row. It's never happened. And so they asked him, how do you do it? What's your secret? And I don't want to use his exact words, so I'll rephrase it in kosher terms. You step on the gas, turn left. It's that blank simple. Get it? You step on the gas, because in Indianapolis, you're always turning left. You're not going up or down, it's always turning left. But of course, you're doing it at 240 miles an hour, but we won't tell anybody. But Indianapolis racing is oval racing. It's built, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is built on an oval. And like a driver at Indy, Bill Vukovich, we sometimes can get caught up in going around and around and around, and our life in Yeshua is like racing on an oval. How many have ever been there where you're just living for Yeshua, but what's the end of it? You go every Shabbat, you go to shul. Every Bible study, you read your Bible. You say the same prayers. We do the Vahibin Sola every week. You go home, you pray in tongues that your loved one's still not out of jail. Your aunt is still sick. Your grandfather is still senile. Who's laughing? Nothing's changed, and life and sometimes life like a believer can seem like we're right on the corner of 16th and Georgetown in Speedway, Indiana. By the name, there's actually a town called Speedway, Indiana. It's not Indianapolis, it's Speedway, Indiana. And it's like, whoo! And it's like, this is really great, and the thrill of going 240 miles an hour is really great, but what's the goal? What's the purpose? Even as a believer, we can wonder, what's the purpose of this life? you get to heaven? That's nice. Yeshua didn't say, I've come that you may get to heaven. He said, I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. So life as a Messianic Nazarene Israelite has to have a goal. In the Indy 500, we call it a finish line. Hello? Do you have a finish line in your Messianic walk? No, I mean, really, don't tell me about getting to heaven. We all know you're going to heaven because of the blood of Yeshua. That's a given. That's a given. We don't need to elaborate or midrash on that. Or have you found your life to be like those 33 drivers tomorrow who, if they don't have a finish line or a crown to shoot for, to aim for, to seek after, wind up going around in circles? And when you're going around in circles at 240 miles an hour in the spirit, you are muchísimo loco. Turn to your neighbor and say, he's not talking about you.
He's not talking about you.
Sometimes life can seem that way. Like we're just turning left, stepping on the gas, turning left, get up, go to work, clean the house, get up, go to work. Life becomes a routine. And what is the purpose of all this, of all the price we've paid to live for Yeshua? Look at verse 26. So what? I'm going to go to heaven, but I'm going to suffer for the next 50 years. I'm going to be lonely for the next 40 years. I'm not going to have anyone to love or to love me for the next 33 years. Nothing changes. I pray. The more I pray, the more things stay the same. That's because we have been taught and discipled wrongly. We've been put at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway of spiritual Israel and told to find our way home. And we're all waiting to get to heaven. So the Sundays, some folks wait for the rapture. And you and I wait to get to heaven. Oh, sorry, that's nice that you're going to go to heaven. That's a given. What are you going to do for the next 30 years? And so we're like those 33 drivers that if you took away the finish line, what would the Indianapolis 500 be like? It would be a race with no end. And you'd wind up going around in circles all the days of your believing life. How many know what I'm talking about? Nothing changes. You pray, the more things don't change. Heaven's gates are iron. Yahweh seems like he doesn't care. Yahweh seems like he's just asking for a friend. You can't, and you've been believing for 25 years and you still don't have a close friend. So what kind of life is this? And then the devil comes to you and says, well, but you might be better off being a Buddhist or a Shintoist. At least this way you can have a nice shiny bald head. And you don't got to pay for all those haircuts. You can save money, you don't have to do your nails. How many know it's cheaper being Hare Krishna than Messianic Israel? It's much cheaper being Hare Krishna. You don't have to do your nails and you don't have to do your hair. But you know why we laugh? Because that's what life is sometimes. We're ready for the race, we got the green flag, we're ready to go. We'll go gung-ho for Yahweh, and we just go around in circles, and we see the same problem circling our lives, going around in the same circular problem, and no solutions. Now look at verse 26. 1 Corinthians 9:26. Rob Shul said, I don't race that way. The Indianapolis 500 drivers that everyone in this room will be watching tomorrow morning. At what time? 12 o'clock, Channel 10, right. That's right, you'll be watching my tapes. Not one of those guys is going to race without a goal. Not one of those guys is going to race without a target. Without shooting for a crown. And Rashul says, I'm the same way like the Indy 500 drivers. I don't race aimlessly. Look at verse 26. He says, I don't run or race. He compares the believing life to a race, lest you think this is a personal message about the Indy 500, which it is. But there's a spiritual application here, is there not? Rashul says, when I race, I don't run to run. He said, I don't even run just to finish. I'm doing more than running to run, and I'm doing more than running to finish. The problem with our life is, we know the finish line is heaven, So we're running to get to heaven. In the meantime, nothing changes in our lives. The Rosh says, I don't race that way. The drivers in Indianapolis don't race that way. It's not enough for them to go around in circles. They have an aim, they have a goal, they have a purpose. Is anyone with me?
Yes.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Without a crown or a goal, you are like one who beats the air. Without a goal or a crown, the run of the believer is likened unto aimless existence. What's a racing way to say aimless existence? Going around in circles. So my question to you this day before we get started is, what are your goals, brothers and sisters? What are your personal goals as an Israelite? What do you want to achieve living this Messianic Nazarene Israelite life? What do you want to achieve? Stop and ask yourself that. What would you like to achieve? Getting up, going to work, and going to sleep, you're just living. That's not achieving anything. See, a lot of us get depressed and despondent and confused because we're racing. Yeshua put us in a race car, but took away the finish line, or you allowed Satan to think that the finish line was heaven. Heaven is the gift. It ain't the finish line as far as I'm concerned. That's the gift that I'm going to get because Yeshua loved me. We love him because he first loved us. So heaven is not the finish line. Although in that other system, that's what they teach. They teach that heaven is the finish line. The finish line. Heaven is a gift. Regardless of what I do or what I don't do, heaven is a gift. It's not the finish line. We must have a goal or a purpose or a vision so we can achieve the goal, achieve the vision, and achieve the purpose. And that's what believers lack. And so what happens is in our believing lives, we go around in circles, round, waiting. Yeah, we know and we believe, because we've been told the finish line is heaven. No, it's not. That is your home. It's not your finish line. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's your home. You're going to go home one day. But a race is not for angels, it's for human beings. When you're like the angels in heaven, you won't need the analogy of a race. Rashul won't need to use the analogy of a race because the race is over.
Amen.
You'll be at home. You won't need a goal. You won't need a purpose. You won't need a vision. So stop and ask yourself, what do you want to achieve as a child of Yahweh? Over the next 5 years. Over the next 3 years. Over the next 2 months, 3 days. And only you can answer that question. Why do you want to keep going on for Yeshua? What are you searching for? What is your goal? How will you attain your goal? Life in Yeshua without a goal is like driving in circles. Turning left, stepping on the gas with no purpose. How many know stepping on the gas, turning left can get pretty monotonous over the course of 500 miles without a purpose, without a vision, without a reason for being in the race? You're going to go to heaven. That's done by the blood of the everlasting covenant. That's a done deal. That's set apart, signed, and sanctified by the precious blood of Messiah Yeshua. You're going to get to heaven because of the blood of the everlasting covenant. Amen? What about next year? What is your goal for next year? What is your goal for this month? And let me tell you, if we don't have a goal, life will become boring, monotonous, and it'll become a very long wait for you to get to your home. And while you're waiting, the enemy will attack you with everything. Even though you have the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, your loins girded about with truth, your feet shed with the preparation of the good news of shalom. Even though you're doing all the right things, you're going through all the motions, you're stepping on the gas, you're turning left, you're in the Indy 500, everything should be right, the crowd should be cheering, you should be looked at as a hero, you should be looked at as a champion, you should be looked at as a winner for just being in the race. Everything looks right, acts right, you're in the right place with the right car, with the right driver combination, the engine is kicking on all 8 cylinders, and yet you feel suicidal, yet you feel depressed, yet you feel like tossing in the towel. Why? Because you don't race like Rav Shaul. If Rav Shaul was in the Indy 500, he wouldn't race like we walk with Yeshua. He would race different than we walk with Yeshua. Look at verse 26. Rav Shaul says, when I race, I run my race, circle these words, not with uncertainty. What's the opposite of uncertainty? Clarity. Claro. Es claro. We work to get the paycheck. We go shopping to fill the refrigerator. So everything we do in life has a goal. We reach a goal. We reach a conclusion. We reach a purpose, a climax. We fulfill the purpose for that which we started to achieve. Except when it comes to living as a believer. Oh, I love the Lord, and the Lord loves me. Okay, now, are you going to be going in circles for the next 5 years? Yes, I'm just driving for Yeshua. Yeah, and you drive yourself nuts. Because you're waiting to go to heaven. You're going to go to heaven. Whether you turn left, right, up, or down. But what does Yeshua want you aiming for next month, this month, this week? And only you can answer that. Make sense? Only you can answer that. What is your goal? Is it a legitimate goal or a realistic goal? Without legitimate and realistic goals, we will wind up driving in circles, looking for the finish line and not finding it. And that's called frustration. When you look for a finish line and there is no finish line. And that's when we get depressed, despondent, and suicidal, and confused. Because we think believing is believing the good news and going to heaven one day. And we don't want to be like the world. We don't want to copy and mimic the world. So we don't want to set goals or dreams or have any aspirations because it's worldly, carnal, in the flesh. See, the devil's lying to you. I know the devil's lying to you. He's lying to you right now while you're listening to the message. How did he know that? We've been told that setting goals, having a dream, having aspirations, seeking to improve our service to Yahweh is worldly, it's carnal, it's not of the Father. Hello? Only people in multi-level marketing have goals. Only people that sell brownies, multi-level marketing, Rexall brownies, or Fuller Brush. Only they have goals. They want plateaus of achievement. But what has Satan mimicked? That's the counterfeit of what we are to have in the faith, in Emunah. Goals, a finish line. You know why you're having problems? Do you know why I run into problems? Because we either don't have a finish line or we lose sight of the finish line. And Rav Shaul says, I don't walk with Yeshua like that. And I don't want you walking with Yeshua like that. Hello? Well, if I ask you right now, most of you, my brothers and sisters, what is your goal in your service to Yahweh? Forget about the world. In your service to Yahweh, would you be able to? What is your goal for next month? Where do you want to be further into the 500 miles with 200 miles behind you, 300 miles to go, and the finish line clearly in sight? You know, the more goals you set along the 500-mile journey, the closer you get to the finish line. The problem is we got a whole bunch of believers being told of a finish line, but they can't see the finish line because the finish line is not heaven. The finish line is to finish the human race of walking with the Master. Rav Shaul said in his dying days in prison in Rome, I have run the race, I have finished the course, Therefore is laid up before me a crown of righteousness, not to me, but not to me only, but to all those who love his appearing. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Amen, somebody.
Amen.
Without legitimate goals and aspirations, daily, weekly, monthly, you will be like those Indianapolis drivers. You'll be driving in circles. The difference is they have a finish line. They have a goal. And look at verse 26. Ralph Schultz says, when I race and I run, I don't do it with uncertainty. I do it with great clarity. Not just eternal clarity, but what? Daily clarity. Some of us in our lives, we need daily clarity. Why get out of bed? Go to work, pay the bills, clean the house. That's going to be there whether you have clarity or not. But if you say today's purpose is to reach someone for Yeshua. Today's purpose is to share the two houses with someone who's never heard it. Today's purpose is to reach 4 people for the true name that have no exposure to the true name. And that goal, and if you miss that goal, you readjust it to the next day. Amen. So now you're running the race every day because every day, every week, every month has a new finish line that is realistic and legitimate. Make sense?
Amen.
Leaders, successful leaders are the same as everybody else. Successful leaders, they dream like everybody else, but they set goals and they act on their dreams. How can you act on a vision or a goal or something that you've set to achieve when we don't act on it? And you can't act on it without having a finish line. So I'll tell you one thing the Indy 500 racers are not going to do tomorrow. They're not going to step on the gas, turn left, and just go around in circles because that's called a circus. That's not called an automobile race. Hello? It's called a 3-ring circus. That's what our life looks like sometimes when we don't have, what is your goals? Well, my goal is to pay my doctor bills, make sure I have Medicare because I realize in the next 25 years I may be in a nursing home and I want to make sure that I can be taken care of. That's not a goal. Oh, I realize that I'm getting into my 50s and 60s and I realize that God forbid, one day I might have Alzheimer's or something, and I want to make sure that, my house is in it. That's not a goal. That's not a reason for getting out of bed in the morning. Who are you going to feed tomorrow in Yeshua's name?
Amen.
Who are you going to clothe? Do something
Amen.
to enhance the kingdom, to further the kingdom. Don't get behind the race car, start the car, and say, who am I going to share the 2 houses with tomorrow? Who am I going to feed tomorrow? Who am I going to clothe tomorrow? Do something. And if you have a vision or a ministry, don't wait for someone to approve of your ministry. Do the ministry. You know the people that Yahweh appoints to ministry? Are the people that are doing it. They don't wait for man's permission. They don't wait for the rabbi's okay. They do the ministry, they're walking the ministry, they're living the ministry, and then they just wait for the rabbi or pastor to recognize that calling.
Amen.
I didn't make Brian a worship leader. He was already a worshiper. I refined it, I worked with him. But he was already a worshiper. He was doing what he was called to do. Hello?
Amen.
What we are told is we are to make goals. We are to have dreams. We are to have legitimate, realistic things that we can attain and achieve in our lives. And when those things are missing, what happens?
Aimless.
We just wind up running around in circles. Aimlessly. And there's no one in the Indy 500 tomorrow that's going to be racing around in circles without a goal, without a purpose, without a vision, without a reason for racing. Is anyone with me?
Yes.
Well,
Hallelujah.
Now look at verse 25. Do you not know? I'm sorry, verse 25. Everyone who controls himself in every way. Now they do it. Who's they? In context of today's message. Who's they? The drivers at the Indianapolis 500. Isn't that what we're talking about? Today's lesson, Speedway Guidance. Speedway Guidance. What is the topic? 33 drivers in tomorrow's 87th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. They do it, verse 25, to receive a what? Corruptible crown. Why are they racing? Why are 500,000 fans, the largest single-day sporting event in the world, going to show up on the corner of 16th and Georgetown?
Money.
A crowd 3 times the size of the Super Bowl. 5 times the size of the Kentucky Derby. 7 or 8 times the size of the World Series. Why?
Money.
Because they have a corrupt